Welcome to our podcast where we talk about getting better at speaking different languages. Today's topic focuses on overcoming language anxiety. So, we will know basically how to overcome that, what to do, and all the steps. So, let's start. So, what is actually language anxiety? It is basically connected with the feeling of being scared or nervous about speaking another language. But don't worry at all about that because I will be giving you some easy tips to help you feel more confident and relaxed when you speak the language with native speakers or with foreigners as well. So, the first step is understanding language anxiety. We need to understand what is language anxiety. And so, language anxiety is when you feel worried or nervous about speaking another language. Like, it is basically normal to feel this way, to feel nervous, especially if you are afraid of making mistakes or not being understood. And this actually happens when we are speaking with native speakers. I'll give you an example to simplify the meaning of language anxiety. So let's say, for example, you are learning Spanish. Like, imagine you are learning Spanish or any other language that you would prefer to learn. So let's say, all right, you are learning Spanish and you have been practicing the language for a few months. Maybe you have been studying the language, like watching Spanish movies, maybe chatting with Spanish like speakers online, and doing everything possible to improve and to become a professional Spanish speaker. However, after a few months of practicing, you feel so excited to try out the new skills, like to try out speaking with native speakers, maybe writing, reading, and everything. So, once you decide to have a conversation with a native speaker, what happens? Anxiety starts. Why? Because of the idea that you are speaking with a native speaker, with a Spanish speaker, since we are focusing on Spanish language as an example. And so, as you start speaking, you feel your heart racing and your mind goes blank. Not only that, rather, you struggle to find the right words and you worry that you are not making any sense. And at the end of the conversation, you feel so disappointed and frustrated with yourself because of what you have produced. You feel that all the effort that you spent studying and working on your Spanish fluency have just gone away. And you will end up wondering if you will ever be able to speak Spanish fluently. However, when you talk to other language learners, especially those who are learning Spanish as a foreign language, you realize that many of them have had similar experiences. So, meaning that you are not the only one who's facing those kind of language struggles, but everyone. So, it doesn't matter what language you are learning, Spanish, English, French, any language. You will be going through all these struggles. Why? Because this is part of learning process. So in this case, you should not worry about making mistakes. Take it as an advantage. Take it as part of the language learning process. Because trust me, everyone goes through the same struggles. So they basically reassure you that it is totally normal to feel nervous when speaking a new language. Seriously, that is totally normal. So there is nothing to be embarrassed about, nothing to be frustrated about. Why? Because it is just a part of the language learning process. And so one day, when you meet someone who speaks Spanish fluently, and they will tell you that they also experience anxiety when they first started learning the language. So they will basically share with you some tips and tricks that help them overcome their anxiety. And that is why I always, always, always recommend speaking, having a conversation with these people because of their experience in learning the language. And so they would always love to share everything they have gone through with you. And that is why I always recommend speaking with foreigners, not just native speakers, but foreigners, like foreign language speakers, because of the experience, the language experience. They will even share with you some some advice, or maybe some tips to help you not to go through the same struggles that they have been through. All right, so this is really, really a big advice. And so, with time, you will start feeling more confident in your abilities. It might not be within a short amount of time, it might take some time, and so you need to be patient. Like, being patient is really, really, really important. And so, with time and practice, you will be able to speak the language and become more comfortable. And you will realize that feeling anxious was just a part of the learning process, and that it didn't mean you couldn't learn the language. Then you will be able to have conversations in Spanish or any other languages without any difficulties, without any struggles, and without any challenges. And that will definitely make you feel so proud of how far you have come. The second point that I would like to focus on is about acknowledging your feelings. What does that mean? It is really important to acknowledge your feelings, to recognize them, and to feel that being nervous is okay. Being under a lot of challenges, that is totally fine. So that is why it is really important to recognize those kind of disturbing feelings and to feel that it's okay. Being nervous, that is totally fine. For now I am nervous, but after some time everything will be okay. So you really need to train yourself, you really need to train your mind on how to feel that everything will be okay. Being nervous is okay, being anxious is okay, being under a lot of challenges, that is totally fine. It's okay. It's everything, everything that you are going through is basically part of the language learning process. So there is nothing to be worried about, nothing to be scared of, right? You don't need to worry about what people might say about you, because this is actually one of the craziest things that we all fall in. Even I myself, actually, when it comes to like learning something, I would always start worrying about people's opinions, like, oh my gosh, what will they say about me, what will they think, and stuff like that. But in reality, who cares? You are learning a language, so that's okay. Everyone learns something, and so it's okay to be nervous. It is really, really okay to be nervous, to be upset, to be frustrated. It's okay. Recognize those feelings, acknowledge them, because they are basically part of the learning process. And believe me, if you meet people or if you meet language learners who tell you that language is easy, everything is fine, they are not having any ups and downs feelings, trust me, they are not telling you the truth. Why? Because it's a language learning process, and so it's totally okay to feel nervous. Really okay. Right? So I'm not here to disappoint you, but I'm here to wake you up to the fact that being nervous is okay, being anxious is okay. Why? Because you are learning the language, and trust me, this is not gonna be for a long time. It's just for a short time. So really, it is basically just for a matter of time, and everything will be perfect with you. Really, it's just a matter of time. Seriously, everyone feels this way, especially when trying something new like learning a language, taking some courses, learning some skills, things like that. So that's why the first step in overcoming language anxiety is to recognize and acknowledge your feelings and accept how you feel or accept how you are feeling. This is really, really important. Because, as I said, it's totally okay to feel nervous, especially when you are trying something new, like speaking in another language. And so, acknowledging your feelings allows you to confront them rather than trying to ignore or suppress them by hiding them. Alright? So, when you acknowledge your feelings, you are not judging yourself for having them. Instead, you are recognizing those feelings and to tell yourself that's okay to feel this way. And there are basically a lot of other language learners who felt this way as well. So, by accepting your feelings, you can actually start working through them and develop certain strategies to manage these feelings. Besides that, it's also important to remember that making mistakes is a natural part of the learning process. What do I mean by making mistakes here? Like, for example, having wrong pronunciation, maybe having wrong grammatical structures, things like that. So making these kind of mistakes is really okay, is really natural. I mean, is really okay, nothing to be embarrassed about because you are learning the language. And so I really want you not to feel embarrassed when it comes to making mistakes. Take it as a fun learning experience because you are actually learning the language. Because, as I said, everyone makes mistakes when learning a new language. And you know what? Each mistake is actually an opportunity. Like, it can be considered as an opportunity, as a chance to learn and grow. And so, by accepting that mistakes will happen, you can definitely relieve some of the pressure. And in this case, you can just enjoy learning the language, or enjoy learning any kind of courses or hobbies, like taking new hobbies, things like that. You will just enjoy the learning process when you know and realize that making mistakes are basically part of the learning process. And so when you realize that, you would definitely make it easier for you to overcome your anxiety and to simply enjoy the learning process. That is why realizing and recognizing your feelings are really important. Alright, so now let's move into the next point, which is practicing deep breathing and relaxation techniques. How is that possible? Well, when you feel nervous, it is always recommended to try taking deep breaths and relaxing your body. That can actually help you to to relax, not to be stressed, not to be anxious, and to simply overcome all those negative feelings in order to continue. Or you can even try some simple exercises to calm yourself down, like maybe closing your eyes and thinking about something peaceful, or maybe listen to some relaxing music or things like that. So basically, doing some simple exercises can actually help you calm down, can even help you relax and not to be tensed. The next important point is confidence. How to build confidence using small steps. The first thing, not to try memorizing or practicing too much at once. So, when it comes to learning a language, I always advise my students not to memorize a lot of words in one day, because if you memorize a lot of words in one day, you would forget them easily. So, what you need to do is that try to memorize at least 4 to 5 words a day. And then when you memorize them, write them in sentences. Because when you practice what you memorize in using simple sentences, that will actually help you understand more about the meanings of these words, and that will even help you practice the speaking skills as well. So that is why it is highly advised to start by practicing simple sentences or words in easy situations. All right? And never try to do too much at once. You might be very much interested in picking up the language very quickly so that you can use it to like to speak, maybe to get better jobs and things like that. I totally understand it and I really feel you. However, it is really important to take everything step by step. And as you get better, you can try more challenging things, but never try to do challenging things. Never challenge yourself in the beginning. So, in the beginning, you need to take it step by step. This is really important. Taking step by step is really, really important. And then you can go for more challenging steps. Because if you really need to overcome your language anxiety, it is really important for you not to overwhelm yourself. And how to do that? By taking everything step by step. So that is why it is really important, as I have just mentioned. So you should not overwhelm yourself by diving into complex conversations right away. What does that mean? I'll give you an example about the English grammar topics. Let's say you want to learn about the tenses, the English grammar tenses. So what should you start with? Should you start with the simple present and simple past tense, or you should jump into the perfect tense? Well, of course, you need to start from the beginning. You need to make sure that you are perfect in using the simple present tense and simple past before moving into the perfect tense and then passive and all of them. Why? Because understanding the present and past tense is basically the core of the English grammar tenses. You need to master them before moving into the next step, which is the perfect tense. And this is what I have actually noticed among a lot of students. What they usually do is that they come to me with the purpose of learning about the perfect tense, where in reality they need to master the present tense. They don't even know what is actually present tense. And when I refuse that, when I reject their purpose, they get to feel so stressed, tensed, and everything, and they even think that I am not actually supporting them. But in reality, I am supporting all the language learners, and that is why I always advise the language learners to start learning the English grammar using a step-by-step method and never jump into other topics. So this is really important because every topic is connected to the previous one, and if you don't really know the basics, things might get a bit complicated after that. So that is why it is really important to take things easily. I mean, not exactly easily, but at least to take things using a step by step method. It is really important. So basically, I just thought of sharing with you this particular example to help you understand the idea better. And the same thing goes to the reading skills. You always need to choose English reading stories that are connected to your English level. Meaning that if you are an advanced learner, you should not go for beginner level. You should not go for simple stories and then convince yourself that you are doing a lot of reading. No, that is not the case. And the same thing goes to English beginners. Like when it comes to beginner level, they should choose books that are similar, that are connected to their level of understanding, to not get bored or or overwhelmed by the number of high advanced vocabulary. So that is why it is always important to not to not jump into other challenging steps. You need to go through, you need to go through the steps one by one, never jump. So this is how you can basically overcome your anxiety and the challenges, and so that will basically help you develop and build your confidence. All right, I really hope this point is very clear, and if you have any questions or other points of view, you are always welcome to share them with me. And so it is always important to start by practicing with simple phrases or sentences to not be stressed. So, how is that possible? You can have like a conversation with friends or language partners. Language partners where you can find them in any of the online language classes or the online English platforms, or if you are learning other languages as well, you can basically find them in any of the online language platforms. And if you need more details about them, just let me know in the comments, so I will explain them. I will explain more about them in the upcoming English podcast. All right, so yeah, as I said, it is always recommended to speak with language partners who are also supportive and understanding, and they know more about what you are going through. Why? Because they have already experienced that. All right, so that is why it is always recommended to do that. So you may start with basic vocabulary and common phrases to not feel overwhelmed, and so you can ease yourself into speaking the language without being anxious, without having any anxiety. All right, and so once you become more comfortable, gradually try to challenge yourself with more complex language tasks, but not from the beginning, as I have told you a few minutes ago. All right, so this is really important to do in order to avoid being anxious, being overwhelmed with the language, and to not feel bored after that. So it is always important to start using a step-by-step method. Besides that, you can even get involved practicing and participating in group discussions, like giving presentations or engaging in conversations with native speakers or even language learners, like foreign language learners. Because when you get involved in doing such activities, that will even help you gain confidence and not to feel stressed about the language. So seriously guys, just try these steps, because really if you start trying and practicing these steps, everything will be perfect in the end. Just try them. And so, by slowly increasing the difficulty of your language practice, what will happen? You will basically start gaining self-confidence and become more proficient in expressing yourself freely and without being overwhelmed. Because you need to remember, your goal of learning the language is not perfection, but progress. And so you really need to celebrate your achievements along the way. What does that mean? Let's say you set your goals to learn 5 words a day with sentences, and once you do that, get something for yourself, get a reward, because you really need to reward yourself. You don't need to buy something expensive. Anything can be enough, even a cup of coffee, even a sandwich, anything. All right, because you really need to reward yourself for every simple achievement, because as I told you, you should not learn the language quickly. You need to enjoy the progress. So this is really important, and this is basically similar to those who take English courses, and they can finish the English courses, finish the 6 months without feeling the progression. And this is so heartbreaking, actually. So basically, no matter how small the steps may seem, each step you take, no matter how small, it worthies the effort. And it brings you closer to your language learning goals, and also it helps you build your confidence as a language speaker. And that will take us to our next point, which is focusing on communication, not perfection. How is that? Because the most important thing is to communicate your ideas, to be able to share them, and to make sure they make sense. So in this case, this will be your goal, to communicate your ideas and not to be perfect. You are not seeking perfection. You are learning the language so that you'll be able to share your thoughts with others, to communicate them with others. So this will be the most important thing that you need to focus on. And as I told you, it's totally okay to make mistakes, because that's how we learn. We learn through making mistakes. Because as you know, making mistakes is a natural part of the learning process, and also a chance for you to grow. So it's okay to make mistakes. And every mistake you make is a chance basically to learn something new and to improve your language skills. So that is totally fine and nothing to be worried about, alright? You don't need to worry about speaking perfectly. All you need to care about is getting your message across. So you may use words and phrases that you perfectly know, even if they are not 100% correct, as long as you know them, alright? Because this is the most important thing, is to get your message across. But that doesn't mean you need to keep on using the same words and phrases you know. No, 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 no. I didn't mean it this way. What I meant is that you need to keep on learning, alright? So you need to keep on learning based on your level. If you are a beginner, that means you need to learn words that are used by beginner students. And if you are advanced learners, you need to use and learn words that are used by advanced learners. So this is how you can learn the language, alright? But never keep on using the same words and phrases over and over. You need to keep on improving, of course. So this is really important. So you really need to remember that language is just a tool for communication and for getting your message across. And so you don't need to be afraid to take risk and try new things. The more you practice speaking and communicating in the language, the more confident you will become over time. So this is how you can build your confidence level, is through step-by-step progress, alright? So really guys, if you follow the steps I have just shared with you, you will be able to overcome all the language challenges, the anxiety, the lack of self-esteem and everything, and you will be able to communicate your thoughts freely and confidently. Alright, and also if you have any questions regarding what I have just explained, feel free to let me know in the comments. Also, I would love to hear your opinion about what we have just talked about. So in this case, I really hope you find today's English podcast very useful, and if you have any questions, thoughts, ideas for the upcoming English podcast, just let me know as well. So with that being said, I wish you then a happy day, and I will be looking forward to having you on the upcoming podcast. Have a great day and take care. Bye bye.